So in the last video, we demoed the bathroom vanity and closet. We talked a little bit about what to do with your clothing while all this mess is going on for quite some time, and sort of management. And we sort of looked at the overall picture, right, is what we were trying to get accomplished. Well, I also knocked a hole through our cold water line, right, that was underneath the floor. At that point, I called in help. I was like, Wayne, I need some help here, right? I like Wayne a lot. He throws shade my way, I throw shade his way, but the job gets done, and he's a good communicator. He does what he says he's going to do. He shows up when he says he's going to, and I really like that, right? So it's very easy for me to deal with him. And I've also determined that I don't hate plumbing per se. What I hate most about plumbing is that when I have to do it. When I watch him do it, I find it to be really fascinating and a very interesting subject to have and watch. So I hope you find it interesting. But I'm going to call this next video sort of Wayne the Plumber video, or Jeff doesn't really hate plumbing that much. He just hates it when he does it, or something like this, right? But Wayne's going to get to work on this job here, and we're going to look at the different components that he put in. And my anxiety level went from about here, right? Just find your happy place with this problem, these problems, right? The way this goes. I feel so much better and more confident now that he and his guy have come in and actually done the work. So my first encounter with Wayne was a couple of years ago, and I'm going to put a link in a description in a fairly popular video I did called Tunneling Under Slab. The reason why we did this and that I had to call him out was that our other bath toilet area had plugged up, and I had snaked it out and I got mud back on the tip. So I called Wayne out because I didn't understand what was happening, right? So we did some isolation work, right? We used cameras in our main line. We used a cat and a mouse to generate a tone and then pick that up with a sensor to try and figure out exactly where the problem was. Comes out to be about an 8-foot tunnel needed to be dug underneath my house. And Wayne starts to describe to me how this is actually done. And it's this thousand and this thousand and this $1,000 and this thousand, and it just keeps on going up. And, I'm just giggling by that point, right? He's pretty matter of fact. He sees the stuff all the time. It's like no big deal, right? It happens all the time with iron pipe. And, I just didn't want that bill, and I didn't want to go into debt for it either. So after speaking with him and asking all kinds of questions, I went over to the rental tool place and I pulled the appropriate tools back, and I did a proof of concept to make sure that physically I could actually do this and get somewhere with it without it completely overwhelming me. I eventually purchased my own tool. I show that in the video. I actually purchased that tool because I had a number of other jobs. One of them being this project, right? That's how I got all the tile up, was with my own tool. I'm not under the gun as far as time is concerned and cost. So that's how I did it. But that was my first encounter with Wayne. And then he shows a technique called mud balling. And no, that's not between he and I or anything weird like that. It's actually a technique to backfill your hole so that you don't get a lot of settling coming out of the dirt that you put back in. So he showed me how to do that, and he was very gracious with his own personal time and in a few instances to just sort of get me going, and then he took off and I did the work. So he's going through this, and he's got some water coming out. It's pretty fun to watch.
Come on, Hub. Come on, Holmes. Holmes.
Oh dear.
Where's all this water coming from? Jesus. Get the meter off? Yeah, I know, the pressure's off. More. Go wring these out. I need more. There's more.
Oh, after some time and some cussing and discussing, he got it all back together, and then they had to tie in up in the attic. I ran the PEX from the service areas back to the manifold and laid the stuff up in the attic.
Smart.
Alright, looking pretty good. Now we go up in the attic and tie in the 1/2 inch to the 3/4 here. And then of course the water heater gets all put back in place. This is directly behind the water heater. So Wayne had his assistant do the stub outs for the existing sink and then run over for the new sink to our right in the video. And at the end of the day, he was getting ready to leave, and he noticed that the hot and cold shutoffs, or actually the lines that stub out, were too far apart. So a little bit of disassembly and reassembly to get those things to come back in. I don't have any video of that, but the clock stopped, and we got a chance to do it all over again. All right, we got ourselves a operational plan here. All right, so we've gone from the single to the double. I'm gonna do all the tying down and the neatening up and all that. I really just needed those guys to pull the system together as far as the design is concerned, and and stub it out, right? So we got that. That's cool. What we were doing was having quite a bit of discussion about what we were going to do with this, and what we decided is that he has another guy who does excavation only, and he's way cheaper than having Wayne the plumber do it. So what we're going to do is leave this for now, and you can see in my outline here, so we need to dig out all that stuff. And we're going to take this, the pooper chute, and we're going to move this over about 6 inches. So it's going to be right here. We've got the room that'll make our shower pan bigger, which was a lot of discussion, and just making decisions on the fly here kind of sucks. Yeah, so we've got this happening now. That's all new stuff. I ran the PEX yesterday. They installed it today and finalized it. There it is. Holy shit. Those guys dug through so much stuff to get to those pipes. I couldn't believe it. And I was never so happy to have pulled the trigger and written a check to get this done. This took them probably 2 to 3 times longer than they were anticipating due to the depth of the concrete that they had to chisel through. It was horrible, and being in this house when that was going on, impossible to do anything. And I had some conference calls set up, right? I had to walk across the street to the park in order to escape the noise, because they were hauling the rubble out of the bathroom window and feeding buckets back in. Unbelievable. I was never so happy to have that done. You notice in the video too is that the pipe that services the toilet actually broke off. The copper was no longer in service, and I told them that, but language barrier and all this stuff, and they chiseled around it, and that was completely unnecessary. They could have just plowed right through it and gotten it out of the way and probably finished the job faster. Anyway, I ended up bumping these guys some money, right, because they just undercharged, and none of us knew what we were getting into here, although I had a feeling. So Christian and his crew just got done digging this hole. And we're looking at somewhere in the order of about 3 feet worth of dirt and concrete, the main and all that. So Wayne's online to come back, and we're going to replace this vent tube and stick another pooper chute piece in here so we can get over here to the drain. Yeah, that's what happens when you want to move a drain about, what, a foot, 2 feet, something like that. So he's about to deliver me the bad news, and we'll see where that takes us. That copper line's no good anymore. He went around it, but he didn't have to. There was no need for that. That copper's staying in the ground. Where's the wrench? You gotta have a wrench. Can't cut the pipe without a wrench. Alright. Wayne's in there doing his thing. He can cut that pipe with that cool tool.
Where's the ratchet, Tito?
The what?
Where's the ratchet?
I didn't bring a ratchet. Oh dear.
The ratchet. Are you kidding me?
I swear to God.
Alright, Wayne has the ratchet. That's necessary to get this bad boy going here. Here we go. We're going to cut a big old iron pipe. You don't twist that thing, it just cuts through as is.
Well, yours sounds like your pipe's
Plumber humor. Your pipe is shit. Dude, how about easing me in with a little bit of, love here, right? Some bedside manner. It'll be okay, Don't worry about it. I got this. That kind of stuff.
There it goes. There you go.
You
Sounds like the pipe is.
need some bedside manner, buddy.
Your pipe sounds like it's getting old. I'm not joking. It's supposed to go pop one time.
Well, it's pretty much as old as my kids, so.
Gotcha.
So it crushed rather than cut. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
It usually pops right through, and yours kind of broken in pieces.
Well, I love your tool.
Never used those before. But luckily we're YouTubing on the way here in case we had to do it.
See what I mean? He tells me he's YouTubing how to fix my pipe on the way over, just in case he had to do it. You know, if pipes can be beautiful, this is, I guess, what they're supposed to look like. I think it's a pretty darn nice job. And we talked a lot about the actual placement of the drain, measurement-wise, and the placement of the toilet. And we don't have a toilet yet. We don't know exactly how this is going to go. But we scooched it over a little bit, right? And I show that in this clip. Big time risk, but we did it, and hope everything fits together when we get to the last steps. Right, excavation work is done, and the plumbers have done their work. Let's take a closer look. So there's some more excavating here that the plumbers did in order to get this drain for the shower to sort of match up, line up, and go deep enough so we get the P-trap in. We come over here, we've reestablished up to the vent. Coming down, we have the Wisconsin T has been installed, and then the PVC now is married to the iron with a rubber boot and snake clamps, actually quite a bit of them. So the hole is actually probably another foot deeper. It's just in excavating this out, all that dirt went into here. And next step is to have the excavators come out and fill most of this with dirt, and then they'll reinforce with rebar and then add cement and smooth this all out, and this part of the project will be done. One last thing is that the toilet set was moved over about 6 inches to the right. So that's going to be about perfect, we hope. Let's hope. For now, this concludes the Wayne-The-Plumber-Show. I don't think I'm going to need him back out here, but you never know, right? We're going to keep him on call, right? And we'll see how things go. I've got his direct line just in case I run into something. But man, am I glad that I just didn't get into this. I was in over my head. Time to call for some help and start writing checks. If you liked it, give me a like. Subscribe.